be able to walk, much less run. Then she sent it as a present to Lightning, begging him to wear it on his finger for love of her. Quick Ear, who heard this trick plotted between the father and daughter, said nothing, and waited to see the upshot of the affair. And when, at the trumpeting of the birds, the sun whipped on the knight, who sat mounted on the jackass of the shades, they returned to the field, where at the usual signal they fell to plying their heels. But if Ciannetella was like another Atalanta, Lightning had become no less like an old donkey and a foundered horse, for he could not stir a step. But Shoot-straight, who saw his comrade's danger, and heard from Quick Ear how matters stood, laid hold of his crossbow, and shot a bolt so exactly that it hit Lightning's finger, and out flew the stone from the ring, in which the virtue of the charm lay, whereupon his legs that had been tied were set free, and with 4 goat leaps he passed Ciannetella and won the race. The king, seeing this victory of a blockhead, the palm thus carried off by a simpleton, the triumph of a fool, bethought himself seriously whether or no he should give him his daughter. And taking counsel with the wiseacres of his court, they replied that Ciannetella was not a mouthful for the tooth of such a miserable dog and lose-the-day bird, and that, without breaking his word, he might commute the promise of his daughter for a gift of crowns, which would be more to the taste of a poor beggar like Moscione than all the women in the world. This advice pleased the king, and he asked Moscione how much money he would take instead of the wife who had been promised him. Then Moscione, after consulting with the others, answered, "I will take as much gold and silver as one of my comrades can carry on his back." The king consented, whereupon they brought Strongback, on whom they began to load bales of ducats, sacks of patakas, large purses full of crowns, barrels of copper money, chests full of chains and rings. But the more they loaded him, the firmer he stood, just like a tower, so that the treasury, the banks, the usurers, and the money-dealers of the city did not suffice, and he sent to all the great people in every direction to borrow their silver candlesticks, basins, jugs, plates, trays, and baskets, and yet all was not enough to make up the full load. At length they went away, not laden, but tired and satisfied. When the councillors saw what heaps and stores these 6 miserable dogs were carrying off, they said to the king that it was a great piece of assery to load them with all the sinews of his kingdom, and that it would be well to send people after them to lessen the load of that Atlas, who was carrying on his shoulders a heaven of treasure. The king gave ear to this advice, and immediately dispatched a party of armed men, foot and horse, to overtake Moscione and his friends. But Quick Ear, who had heard this counsel, informed his comrades, and while the dust was rising to the sky from the trampling of those who were coming to unload the rich cargo, Blowblast, seeing that things were come to a bad pass, began to blow at such a rate that he not only made the enemies fall flat on the ground, but he sent them flying more than a mile distant, as the north wind does the folks who pass through that country. So without meeting any more hindrance, Moscione arrived at his father's house, where he shared the booty with his companions, since, as the saying goes, a good deed deserves a good meed. So he sent them away content and happy, but he stayed with his father, rich beyond measure, and saw himself a simpleton laden with gold, not giving the lie to the saying, "Heaven sends biscuits to him who has no teeth." End of chapter 19.